Welcome to the Veil of Truth, your gateway to uncovering hidden insights and illuminating mysteries. I'm thrilled you've joined our global community. Whether you're watching from a bustling city skyline or a quiet countryside, we're glad you're here. Globe showing Europe, Africa, so tell me, where are you tuning in from today? Chapter 1, An Unwelcome Summons. The marshes of Willowmarsh village lay under a soft morning mist, a silvery veil drifting lazily above the still waters. Reeds whispered with each breath of wind, and the distant cry of a heron echoed like a lonely warning across the pale expanse. It was a peaceful place, at least to those who admired quiet landscapes and the slow rhythm of nature. To Hercule Poirot, however, who had just stepped out of a hired motorcar with exaggerated caution, the marsh was something altogether different. He stared at the mud beneath his polished shoes with a sigh of deep suffering. Mon Dieu, he murmured, they bring Hercule Poirot to a place where the earth itself tries to swallow the elegance. Inspector Charles Hargreaves, a tall, good-natured man with a moustache that would have made Poirot frown under normal circumstances, stepped forward quickly. Sorry about the ground, Poirot, he said with a half-smile. But I'm afraid the matter at hand is serious. Poirot lifted his chin, arranging his coat with one gloved hand. I do not risk my shoes for anything less, my friend. Lead the way. They walked toward a large stone house rising from the fog like a stern guardian, Willowmarsh Manor, a building both dignified and gloomily silent. Its tall windows reflected the faint morning light, giving it the appearance of watching the world with half-closed, somber eyes. Standing at the entrance was a young man in disarray, eyes red, hands trembling, shirt wrinkled as though he had slept in it. He seemed anxious to speak, yet unsure if words would remain steady. This is Mr. Sami Raza, said Hargreaves softly. He's the one who sent for you. Sami nodded quickly. Monsieur Poirot, he whispered, thank you for coming. I did not know who else to turn to. Poirot inclined his head, examining the young man closely. Sami had a gentle face, but it was clouded with fear, a fear deeper than simple grief. His gaze kept drifting toward the upper windows of the manor, as if expecting someone to appear. I received your letter, Poirot said. You spoke of the death of your mother, Madame Fariha Raza. You believe it was no accident. Sami's lips trembled before he answered. Yes. Everyone thinks she had a heart attack, but the doctor, he hinted something was wrong. Something unnatural. Poirot held up a hand. And does this suspicion come from only the doctor, monsieur, or from your own heart as well? Sami hesitated, then looked away. I felt something was wrong the moment I saw her. She was fine the day before. Strong, active, arguing about the accounts as usual. And then suddenly, his voice cracked. She's gone. Poirot observed him carefully. A son grieving his mother, or a man protecting himself from something far darker? The little grey cells remained cautious. But why, Poirot asked gently, would anyone wish her harm? Sami's jaw tightened, and his fingers dug into his palms. Because of my brother. My elder brother, Bilal. He hated her. Everyone knows it. Inspector Hargreaves shifted uncomfortably. Poirot understood why. Family hatred, that old serpent. It slithered into the most respectable homes and destroyed them from within. Poirot spoke softly. Hatred, monsieur, is a strong word. Yet you use it as though it were common. Sami nodded quickly. Because it was. My mother was strict. Controlling. Bilal argued with her endlessly. They had not spoken properly for months. And last night, he swallowed. People saw him at the manor. They heard raised voices. Now the villagers whisper. They think he did it. And you, mon ami? Poirot asked. Do you also think your brother capable of murder? Sammy's eyes widened with fear, a fear not of what his brother might have done, but of what people might believe. "No," he whispered. "I mean, I don't know. I know he hated her, but murder is different. I don't want to think it." Poirot looked at him steadily. "You speak as though you fear the suspicion will fall upon him." Sami looked away. "Inspector Hargreaves thinks a formal investigation may start soon. Once it does, our family may never recover." "Or," Poirot murmured, "you fear it may fall upon you." Sami froze. His lips parted but no sound came out. Poirot observed him quietly, his shaking fingers, his darting eyes, the guilt or panic clinging to his breath. It was obvious that Sami was a young man carrying a burden heavier than a mother's death. "A tragedy," Poirot said softly, "has many shadows. But do not fear, monsieur. I will look. I will listen. And I will find the truth." Sami exhaled shakily, as though those words alone gave him strength. "Come," Hargreaves said. "Let me show you the room where she was found." Poirot followed them inside the manor. The entrance hall was large, with dark wooden panels and portraits lining the walls, stern ancestors glaring down at the chaos now gripping their descendants. The air still carried the faint scent of incense, mixed with something bitter, something unpleasantly sharp. A staircase curved upward like a spine, leading to rooms where the truth still hid. As they climbed, Sami spoke again. "There's another thing, Monsieur Poirot. Something I didn't include in the letter." Poirot paused, turning slowly. "Yes?" Sami swallowed hard. "Last night, I heard my mother arguing with someone. A man. Their voices were low, but I recognized anger. By the time I reached the corridor, the door slammed shut. When I opened it, she was alone. And she wouldn't tell me who was with her." Poirot's eyes brightened. "A visitor? At such an hour?" "I don't know. I thought it might be Bilal. But he denies it." Poirot smiled faintly. "Of course he denies it. In a family of secrets, everyone denies everything." They reached the bedroom. Hargreaves opened the door with care. The room was neat, elegant, with a view of the marsh that glowed faintly through the fog. But the bed at the center, the bed where Madame Raza's body had been found, held an undeniable heaviness, like a shadow that refused to leave. Poirot walked slowly, observing every detail. The teacup on the bedside table. The slightly displaced rug. The pillow creased as though someone had been sitting there. The faint scent of bitter almonds, so faint, yet unmistakable to a trained nose. Poirot stopped. "Ah," he whispered, "that is interesting." Hargreaves raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Poirot tapped the teacup with one finger. "The cup is chipped. Recently. And the tea, someone has stirred it with force." Sami looked pale. "What does that mean?" Poirot straightened, his eyes gleaming. "It means, mon ami, that your mother did not drink her tea peacefully." He turned slowly toward them. "And the person who prepared this tea did not intend peace either." The marsh wind moaned outside, as though echoing his words. The mystery had begun. Chapter 2: The Family in Turmoil. The drawing room of Willowmarsh Manor was a place meant for quiet conversation and polite tea, not whispered accusations and grief. Yet that morning, the air trembled with tension so thick it might have been cut with a knife. Inspector Hargreaves had given instructions for the family to gather so Poirot could speak with each of them. The curtains were half drawn, letting in a weak morning light that stretched across the carpet like pale fingers. Poirot sat upright in a high-backed chair, surveying the room with calm intelligence. It did not take long for Bilal Raza to enter. He strode in with heavy steps, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, his dark hair slightly disheveled as though he had spent the night pacing instead of sleeping. His eyes, sharp, restless, moved immediately to Sami before flicking away with practiced disdain. "What now?" Bilal demanded, crossing his arms. "Is this another attempt to point fingers at me?" Poirot raised one eyebrow. "Monsieur, the investigation has barely begun, yet you speak as though you expect guilt to be placed upon you." Bilal let out a harsh laugh. "Of course I expect it. Everyone in this cursed village knows I argued with my mother. Everyone knows I disliked her rules, her constant criticism, her—" He stopped abruptly, fists tightening. Sami flinched, watching him with a mix of fear and pity. Poirot folded his hands neatly. "Hatred, monsieur, grows from a root. I would understand the root." Bilal's eyes flashed. "Why?" "So you can use it against me." Poirot shook his head. "So that I may see the truth clearly. I do not accuse, you accuse yourself by your fear." Hargreaves stepped forward. "Bilal, this isn't an interrogation. Just answer plainly." Bilal glanced at him, then sighed heavily and lowered himself into a chair. His voice, when it came, was calmer yet weighted with something old and sour. "My mother never forgave me for leaving university. She said I was reckless. Irresponsible. She said I had shamed the family." His fingers tapped restlessly against the chair arm. "We argued almost every week. But arguments do not make murder," Poirot said gently. Bilal looked away. "Maybe not. But everyone knows I didn't get along with her. So if you're looking for someone who benefits from her death, well—" He stopped again, biting the inside of his cheek. Poirot tilted his head. "You would say that Sami benefits more." Silence fell. Sami stiffened in his seat. "That is not what I said," Bilal muttered. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "None, but you thought it." Hargreaves cast a wary glance between the brothers. "This is exactly the tension we must consider. Inheritance disputes often lead to bitter things." Bilal snapped, "I didn't kill her. I may have hated her rules, but murder? I'm not a monster." Poirot studied him carefully. In the flare of anger, Poirot detected deep-wounded pride, not the cold resolve of a killer. He filed that away quietly. A knock at the door broke the tension. The housemaid, a young girl with nervous eyes, entered with a curtsy. "Inspector." "Monsieur Poirot, excuse me. There's someone asking to speak with you." Poirot looked curious. "Someone? Who?" "A girl from the village, sir. Her name is Aliyah. She says she knows something important." Sami's head snapped up. "Aliyah? Why would she come here?" Bilal froze, not in surprise, but in dread. Poirot noticed instantly. "Ah," he murmured, "another shadow enters our tale." Hargreaves nodded to the maid. "Send her in." Aliyah stepped quietly into the room. She was petite, with soft, anxious eyes and a manner that suggested she rarely entered grand houses such as this. Her hands clutched the strap of her small handbag tightly. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she whispered, "but I thought I should tell someone what I saw." Poirot stood politely. "Mademoiselle, please sit." Aliyah shook her head. "No, thank you. I won't stay long." Sami rose. "Aliyah, what happened? Why are you here?" She avoided his gaze, instead looking nervously at Bilal. Poirot stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Mademoiselle, last night you were near the manor." She nodded slowly. "I was walking home through the marsh path. I heard raised voices coming from the manor. A man and a woman arguing. Sami whispered, "My mother." Poirot gestured lightly. "And the man?" Alia's throat bobbed as she swallowed. "I saw someone leaving the manor afterward. A figure in a long coat." "Could you identify him?" Hargreaves asked. Her eyes darted once more to Bilal, then dropped to the floor. I think it was him." Bilal shot to his feet. "That's a lie." Alia shrank back. Poirot raised a calming hand. "Please, monsieur. Let the mademoiselle finish." Alia spoke quickly, trembling. "I didn't see his face clearly because of the fog. But he was tall, broad-shouldered, and he walked toward the marsh as though trying not to be seen." Bilal's nostrils flared. "I was nowhere near the manor after 8 o'clock." Poirot nodded slowly. "You deny you argued with your mother last night?" "Yes." Bilal snapped. "I wasn't here." He stopped abruptly. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Yes, mon ami? You were where?" Bilal's mouth tightened. "It's none of your business." Sami looked as though the world had stopped moving. "Bilal, what are you hiding?" Bilal said nothing. His silence was louder than any confession. Poirot folded his hands behind his back, pacing slowly. A man leaves the manor secretly, a woman dies, and the son who hated her will not reveal his whereabouts. He paused. A curious set of circumstances. Bilal clenched his teeth. "I will not be treated like a criminal." Poirot looked at him kindly. "Then do not behave like one." The room fell silent. Alia, trembling, stepped back toward the door. "I only came because I thought it might help." "Please, don't blame me." Poirot bowed his head. "You have done what you believed right." "Merci, mademoiselle." When she left, Bilal turned sharply to the inspector. "If you think I'm going to tell you where I was, you're wrong." Poirot nodded thoughtfully, as though he expected no other answer. Then he addressed the brothers. "Messrs, a family is like a tapestry, one pulled thread disturbs the whole pattern. Your mother held the threads together. Now she is gone, and the tapestry unravels." He pointed gently at Bilal. "You hide something. Something not of murder, but of importance." He turned to Sami. "And you, monsieur, fear suspicion almost more than you fear grief." Both brothers stood speechless. Poirot stepped toward the window, looking out at the marsh, now glowing with thin morning sunlight. "There is more to this tragedy than meets the eye. Someone else was here last night. Someone who does not belong to this house." Hargreaves frowned. "You believe there was another visitor?" Poirot smiled faintly. "Oh yes, my friend. And one who does not wish to be known." He turned back to the room. "And until we find this mysterious figure, no one in this house is safe from suspicion." The wind shook the window pane softly, like fingers tapping a warning. The investigation had only begun. Chapter 3: The Tea That Should Not Be Drunk. The marsh wind dragged at the curtains of Madame Raza's bedroom as Poirot examined the scene once more. Inspector Hargreaves stood by the doorway while Sami hovered nervously behind him, twisting his fingers. The room was silent except for the occasional creak of the old house and the distant splash of water from the marsh. Poirot approached the bedside table again, his keen eyes focused not on the teacup this time, but on the small silver teaspoon beside it. "Inspector," Poirot murmured, "do you observe anything unusual about this spoon?" Hargreaves leaned closer. "It looks clean enough." "Clean, yes," Poirot agreed. "Too clean." Sami frowned. "What do you mean?" Poirot held the spoon delicately between his fingertips. "In a house where grief has struck, and servants rush about in confusion, is it not strange that this spoon, used to stir a rather bitter tea, has been polished almost spotless? Hargreaves blinked. You think someone cleaned it? Poirot nodded. Someone wished to hide what had been in the tea. Sami whispered, poison. Poirot lifted a finger. Perhaps. Or perhaps merely a medicine that was not prescribed. His gaze drifted toward the window. But whatever it was, Mademoiselle Fariha Raza did not clean this spoon herself. Hargreaves stepped out of the room to summon the servants. Sami, pale and trembling, approached Poirot hesitantly. Monsieur Poirot, if someone poisoned her, could it be Bilal? He made tea for her sometimes. When they weren't arguing. Poirot looked at Sami steadily. You fear it, yes. But do you believe it? Sami's lips parted, uncertainty creeping across his face. I don't know. He hated her. Everyone knows it. Even she knew it. Poirot gently touched the rim of the chipped teacup. Hatred, my friend, when born from wounded pride, can roar loudly but rarely kills. Cold hatred kills. Silent hatred. Controlled hatred. He let those words settle. Sami shivered. At that moment, Hargreaves returned with two servants, Noreen, the senior maid, tall and severe, and Irfan, the family cook, a round man with shaking hands. Noreen bowed stiffly. Inspector. Monsieur Poirot. Poirot nodded politely. Madam, you are in charge of the household's cleanliness. Yes, sir. I supervise the maids. Poirot lifted the spoon. Did you personally polish this spoon last night? Noreen's eyes widened. No, sir. I didn't touch anything here after Madam's collapse. The doctor told us not to move things. Poirot turned to Irfan. And you, monsieur? Did you wash this spoon? Irfan looked horrified. Sir, I swear I didn't. I never entered Madam's room. Only Noreen was allowed. Noreen stiffened. That's not true. Sami also enters often. And Bilal. Sami inhaled sharply. Poirot looked at both servants carefully. Their fear seemed real, their confusion genuine. Très bien, Poirot said softly. Then we have a puzzle. A spoon polished by a hand that wishes to remain unknown. The servants were dismissed. Poirot turned to Hargreaves. We must speak with Dr. Kamal. At once. The doctor's truth. Dr. Kamal's clinic sat in the heart of Willowmarsh village, a small brick building with a white painted sign that swung gently in the breeze. He was a thin man in his late 50s with a kindly face and spectacles that frequently slid down his nose. When Poirot and Hargreaves arrived, the doctor welcomed them into a cluttered office smelling of herbs, antiseptic, and old paper. Poirot wasted no time. Doctor, you hinted to Sami Raza that Madame's death was unnatural. Why? Dr. Kamal sighed deeply, removing his glasses and cleaning them slowly. Because her symptoms did not match a natural heart attack. Sami said she was healthy the day before, Hargreaves said. She was, the doctor replied. Her heart was strong, her blood pressure stable. But last night, he hesitated. She collapsed suddenly, gasping as though her chest were tightening beyond control. Her pulse weakened rapidly. And there was, he paused. Poirot's eyes sharpened. Please, doctor. Do not hold back. Dr. Kamal lowered his voice. There was a faint smell of bitter almonds. Hargreaves straightened. Cyanide. Possibly. But not in typical dosage. Something milder. Slow enough to let her breathe for several minutes before losing consciousness. Poirot clasped his hands thoughtfully. A poison disguised in tea, perhaps. The doctor nodded. Very likely. And no one thought to inform the police. Hargreaves said sharply. Dr. Kamal looked pained. Madame Raza had a complicated family. I feared making accusations without proof. And she had told me earlier, privately, that someone in the house wished her harm. Poirot inhaled sharply. Someone in her own family. The doctor did not answer directly. She did not name anyone. Only said she felt watched. Poirot leaned forward. And did she mention a guest? A visitor? The doctor blinked. A visitor? No. But she did ask for a refill of a particular medicine earlier this week. Something she had not used in years. What medicine? Poirot asked. The doctor opened a drawer and pulled out a small brown bottle. Sleeping drops. Poirot's brows arched. Strong ones. Dr. Kamal nodded. Very. Poirot exchanged a look with Hargreaves. Sleep. Tea. A visitor at night. A polished spoon. A quarrel. A brother who refuses to explain where he was. The threads tangled, but Poirot could see the pattern forming. Merci, Doctor, Poirot said quietly. The marsh path secret. On their way back to the manor, Poirot asked to stop by the marsh path where Olivia had been walking the previous night. Fog clung stubbornly to the ground even in daylight, swirling around the reeds. Poirot walked slowly, careful where he placed his polished shoes. There, Hargreaves said, pointing to a patch of flattened grass. Likely where she stood. Poirot knelt, examining the ground without touching it. Footprints. Several. Some small, Olivia's. Some heavy, boots. Poirot's eyes narrowed. You see, Inspector? Someone waited here. Bilal. Hargreaves suggested. Poirot shook his head. None. These prints face toward the manor. They show someone leaning forward, watching. He straightened slowly. A watcher, Poirot murmured. Who monitors the house from the shadows? Hargreaves frowned. But who? Poirot smiled faintly, tapping the tip of his cane against the earth. Someone who fears being seen. Someone who knows the house. Someone who came not only to kill, but to ensure that the blame would fall exactly where they desired. The wind stirred, carrying distant echoes from the manor. Poirot turned sharply toward it. My friend, he said softly, we must return. The killer grows cleverer with each passing hour. He paused. And I begin to fear, there may be another attempt. Chapter 4, Secrets Beneath the Willow Trees. Hercule Poirot awoke earlier than usual the next morning, his mind already arranging the puzzle pieces that had emerged since his arrival at Willowmarsh Manor. The sunlight slanted through the delicate lace curtains of his guest room, forming patterns that reminded him of webs, beautiful yet deceptive. Much like this family, he thought. He dressed with his habitual care, smoothing the lapels of his grey suit and adjusting his tie to perfect symmetry. Even in the countryside, Poirot would not tolerate a single wrinkle or a single unanswered question. As he descended the stairs, he found Lily waiting in the drawing room. She was pale, her eyes shadowed with weary confusion. Monsieur Poirot, she said softly, I did not sleep. I kept hearing things, faint sounds in the corridor. As if someone was walking outside my room. Poirot paused. And you are certain it was not imagination, mademoiselle? I know my own fear, she replied. This house, it holds too many memories. Too much hatred. Poirot guided her to a chair. Hatred, you say, from your brother? Her hands tightened. Yes. P is not merely resentful. He despises me. He always has. Poirot did not interrupt. He allowed the truth to emerge like a reluctant shadow. When we were children, he would not speak to me for days, she continued. If our parents praised me, he would break something of mine. He was cruel in silence, cruel in stares, cruel in every small way one can be without leaving evidence. Poirot leaned forward. And yet you remain together in this house. Because of Mother. She loved us both, even when P made it difficult. She believed he would change. Poirot raised a brow. But he did not. No, she whispered. He became worse. A soft knock interrupted the moment. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, stood in the doorway, her face stiff with unease. Monsieur Poirot, she announced, Inspector Gray is here to see you. He says it is important. Poirot nodded and rose. Merci. Mademoiselle Lily, rest a little. We shall return to this conversation. There are questions, yes, but they shall wait. Lily attempted a faint smile. Thank you. Poirot followed Mrs. Finch down the corridor to the conservatory, where Inspector Gray stood among clusters of potted ferns, looking decidedly grim. Poirot, he said without greeting, we've uncovered something troubling. Poirot smiled lightly. My friend, everything in this house is troubling. What have you discovered? Gray drew a folded piece of paper from his pocket. We found this after interviewing the staff again. It was hidden in the linen cupboard. Poirot unfolded it. It was a torn page from a letter, written in hurried, slanted handwriting. You do not understand. She is determined to expose the truth. I cannot allow her to ruin everything. It must be stopped tonight. Poirot read the lines twice, then a third time, his eyebrows lifting. And the handwriting, he asked. Gray sighed. We compared it with the samples we could obtain. It appears to belong to P. Poirot tapped the paper with a finger. Ah. But appearances can be the greatest tricksters of all. Does P know this was found? No. Excellent. We shall keep it so. Gray exhaled. Poirot, I know we are both professionals, but let's be honest, this looks like a confession. Poirot smiled. Looks, yes. But looks do not satisfy Hercule Poirot. I require the truth. Gray placed his hands behind his back. Do you think Lily is still in danger? Poirot's voice hardened. I believe everyone in this house is in danger. Later that morning, Poirot decided it was time to speak with P again. He found the young man in the old music room, seated at the dusty piano. His fingers traced the keys without pressing them. Bonjour, Monsieur P, Poirot said. P flinched. Oh. It's you. Poirot sat in one of the faded velvet chairs. You seem troubled. P laughed bitterly. Everyone seems troubled in this house. Poirot folded his hands. Your mother, before her death, she had secrets, yes. P stiffened. Everyone has secrets. And your sister, did she know them? How should I know what she knew? P snapped. She always hid things from me. She acted innocent, but she wasn't. Poirot tilted his head. It sounds very painful to feel so overshadowed. P's jaw twitched. If you think I hated her, you're right. She got everything, mother's affection, father's attention, even the staff treated her like she was made of gold. And me? I was the angry one. The difficult one. The disappointment. Poirot listened in silence. But I didn't want her dead, P continued, his voice cracking. I didn't. I swear. Poirot closed his eyes briefly. Murder is not always born of hatred, Monsieur P. Sometimes it is born of desperation. Or fear. Or the need to hide the truth. P's gaze darted up. What truth? Poirot smiled gently. That is exactly what I wish to learn. That afternoon, Poirot took a solitary walk around the estate, studying the long shadows cast by the willow trees. He examined the pond where Lily claimed to have seen someone watching her. He observed the muddy footprints near the garden shed, each print sharp and recent. He knelt, touching the imprint with a gloved hand. Size 10, he murmured. A man's boot. Someone was here within the last 12 hours. Just then, a rustling sounded from behind the trees. Poirot stood quickly, adjusting his cufflinks. A figure emerged, Mrs. Finch. Her expression was uneasy. Monsieur Poirot, you shouldn't be out here alone. Poirot raised a brow. Why not, madam? Because, she stopped, swallowing. Because this house, it has a way of swallowing people. Most who dig too deeply regret it. Poirot gave a slight smile. Madam, Hercule Poirot regrets nothing. But he thanks you for your concern. Mrs. Finch lowered her eyes. Just, be careful. Poirot watched her walk away, her posture stiff, her steps hurried. Très intéressant, he whispered. Secrets, lies, hatred, fear, the air around Willowmarsh Manor was thick with them. But now, the threads were beginning to align. Poirot felt it. The truth was approaching. And with it, danger. Chapter 5, Echoes of a Mother's Warning. A steady rain began falling over Willowmarsh the next morning, the kind of soft, persistent drizzle that turned the garden paths into slick ribbons of mud and blurred the landscape behind a curtain of grey. Hercule Poirot regarded the rain thoughtfully from the breakfast-room window, his cup of chocolate untouched. Rain had a way of loosening tongues, he found. It stirred melancholy, and melancholic hearts tended to reveal truths they had long concealed. When Lily entered the room, Poirot noted her trembling hands, her pale cheeks. You did not rest again, mademoiselle, Poirot said gently. If rest were possible in this house, Monsieur Poirot, I would seize it, she murmured, taking a seat opposite him. There is something I must tell you. Something I remembered in the night. Poirot folded his hands. I am listening. Lily looked toward the doorway to ensure no one approached. It is about Mother. About the night she died. Poirot leaned closer. You must understand, Lily continued, Mother was not a woman who frightened easily. She was strong. Clear-minded. But in her final weeks, she became anxious, terrified, even, of something. Or someone. Poirot's eyes sharpened. Someone. She nodded. 2 nights before she died, she came into my room just before midnight. Her hair was loose, her hands shaking. She told me she had made a terrible mistake. A mistake that would soon come to light. Poirot sat up straighter. And what was this mistake? She never told me, Lily whispered. She said she had written it down. That she would leave it somewhere safe. But the next day she refused to speak of it again. Poirot tapped the table lightly. A confession? Or a revelation? I don't know. But she feared P would find out before she could put it right. Poirot went still. She feared your brother. Lily swallowed. Yes. Poirot rose slowly from his chair. Then there is much we must discover today, mademoiselle. Your mother's secret, it may be the key. Poirot began his investigation in the late Lady Raza's bedroom. The room was tidy, the sheets pressed, the air faintly scented with lavender. A portrait of her hung above the fireplace, elegant, composed, smiling faintly at some hidden thought. Gray joined him moments later. Poirot, the staff are whispering. They say the house is cursed. Poirot huffed. Superstitions are the refuge of the confused. But confusion, my friend, can be very revealing. Gray watched as Poirot surveyed the room. What are you looking for? Poirot gestured around him. Madame Raza was afraid. Afraid enough to write something important. But where would she hide it? Somewhere close, yes, but somewhere only she would think to place it. He examined drawers, bookshelves, the edges of framed photographs. Nothing. Then his eyes drifted toward the vanity table. On its surface sat a delicate silver hairbrush, a porcelain perfume bottle, and a small wooden jewelry box. Poirot opened the box, rings, a necklace, brooches. All ordinary. But Poirot frowned. This box, it is heavy. Too heavy. He lifted it gently. Monsieur Gray, bring me a small knife. Gray quickly returned with a tool from his pocket. Poirot examined the bottom of the jewelry box, tapping it lightly. The sound, it is hollow. Gray's brow rose. A secret compartment. Just so. Poirot delicately slid the knife beneath the wooden base and pried it upward. A thin panel lifted away, revealing a folded envelope hidden beneath. Gray exhaled. "We've found it." Poirot removed the envelope, noting the elegant handwriting, "For Lily. To be opened only if harm befalls me." Poirot opened the letter carefully. Gray leaned closer. The first lines made Poirot's eyes widen. "My dear girl. If you are reading this, then the truth can no longer be hidden." He continued reading, each word deepening the mystery. "Years ago, I made a terrible choice. A choice involving your brother. I thought it was done to protect him, but I fear I have caused him great harm. And now, he knows the truth. He knows what I did. And he will not forgive me." Poirot stopped reading aloud. The remaining lines he read silently, his expression growing darker. Gray waited. "Poirot? What is it?" Poirot folded the letter slowly, almost reverently. "Inspector, this is not a letter of guilt. It is a letter of regret. The mother confesses not to a killing, but to a deception." Gray frowned. "A deception?" Poirot looked at him sharply. "Yes. Something she hid from her son. Something that concerns his identity." Gray stiffened. "Do you think P discovered it? Is that why he was angry with her?" Poirot nodded solemnly. "I believe he learned something that shook him to his core. Something that changed everything." Gray paced. "But what was the deception? A will? Money? A secret lover?" Poirot's expression remained unreadable. "None. Nothing so crude. It is something far more personal, far more damaging." He slipped the letter into his pocket. "And now Lily must not see this, not yet. For it would destroy her brother. And perhaps herself." Gray stared. "Poirot, what is it?" Poirot gave a small, grave smile. "The truth, my friend, will come soon. But we must be precise. One false assumption, and the guilty will escape." Later that afternoon, Poirot once again sought out P. He found him pacing the corridor, angry and unsettled. "You again," P muttered. "Have you come to accuse me of something else?" Poirot regarded him calmly. "I have come to ask you a question. A question of family." P halted. "Family?" Poirot's gaze pierced him. "Monsieur, what truth did your mother hide from you?" P paled instantly. Poirot continued softly. "You discovered something, did you not? Something she never wished you to know." P's lips parted. I don't know what you mean. Poirot stepped closer. Your anger toward your sister, it began long ago, yes. But recently, it intensified. Something changed. He shook his head. I don't want to talk about this. But you must, Poirot insisted gently. Because your mother's secret, it is the heart of this mystery. P's voice cracked. Leave it alone. He turned to walk away. Poirot's voice stopped him cold. Your mother lied about something essential. Something that defines who you are. P froze. Poirot whispered, you are not whom you believed yourself to be, are you? P trembled violently, shoulders shaking. Stop, he choked. Please. Poirot's heart tightened with sympathy. The young man was not wicked. He was broken. Tell me, Poirot said quietly, and I will help you. But P ran. That night, the storm worsened. Wind howled through the manor corridors. The lamps flickered. And then, a scream. Poirot and Gray rushed instantly toward the sound. It came from Lily's room. When they burst inside, Lily stood shaking, pointing toward the open window. Someone tried to come in, she gasped. I woke and saw a shadow, tall, standing by the curtains. They fled when I screamed. Gray hurried to the window. Footprints below, fresh. Poirot stared into the dark garden, rain hammering the earth. Someone had tried to reach Lily. The danger was no longer hidden. It was at the door. And now, Poirot knew. The truth he had uncovered was only the beginning. Chapter 6, The Visitor in the Fog. The storm raged through Willowmarsh Manor that evening, drumming on the roof with relentless insistence. The sound of rain slapping the windows, coupled with the distant rumble of thunder, made the house feel smaller, almost suffocating. Yet Hercule Poirot, sitting calmly in the drawing room, remained entirely unruffled. His grey eyes gleamed with anticipation beneath his neat, arched brows, and his fingers tapped thoughtfully on the arm of his chair. Danger, he knew, often revealed the truth better than serenity ever could. Sami and Lily sat nearby, their expressions pale and anxious. The recent events, Madame Raza's death, P's hidden rage, the mysterious visitor, had unsettled them both deeply. Sami, especially, was tense, twisting his hands in his lap as though trying to restrain his own nerves. Do you truly believe, Lily asked softly, her voice quivering, that someone in this house intended me harm? Poirot's gaze turned toward her. Yes, mademoiselle. And not merely harm. But to control the outcome of the family, to manipulate suspicion, to shield guilt. Ah, la complexite humaine. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. Humanity, so clever, so cruel. Sami shivered. You mean, the person who killed Mother, they might come after me next. Poirot pursed his lips. Or perhaps your sister. Or even you, Sami, through fear alone. Fear is a weapon the cunning wield as deftly as a knife. A sudden knock on the door made all three jump. Poirot raised a calm hand. Enter, he commanded. The door creaked, and Noreen, the senior maid, stepped in, her expression pale. Sir, she whispered, there is someone at the front gate. They are asking for Monsieur Poirot by name. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Ah. The visitor, perhaps. Or a shadow seeking distraction. He rose gracefully and walked to the front hall, inspecting the visitor before opening the door fully. Outside, the rain had turned to a fine mist, blurring the edges of the person waiting on the doorstep. A young woman stood there, drenched, holding a folded note tightly in her hand. Her eyes were wide, her expression urgent. Monsieur Poirot, she said quickly, I need to speak with you. It's about Madame Raza, and the night she died. Poirot motioned for her to enter. Very well, mademoiselle. Speak. I'm Alia, she said, bowing slightly. I walked the marsh path near the manor the night your client's mother passed. I didn't see everything, but I saw enough. Sami stiffened. Enough? What do you mean? Alia's gaze flicked nervously to P, who had remained silent in the shadows of the hall. I saw someone leaving the manor, but it was not your brother. He was elsewhere, I'm certain. The figure, tall, broad, held a small package in their hand. And they walked straight to the marsh. I followed, but the fog swallowed them. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Aha. The mystery deepens. Tell me, mademoiselle, did this figure notice you? Alia shook her head. No. I hid behind the reeds. I saw the figure reach the water's edge and stop, then turn as if listening. And then, they dropped the package into the pond. Poirot tapped his chin. Into the pond, and what might have been inside? I don't know, she admitted. It looked small, perhaps a bottle. Something wrapped in cloth. Hargreaves stepped forward. This is critical. If the package contained poison or evidence, it explains why the scene was so carefully manipulated. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. Mais OUI. And notice this, my friends, the killer was clever enough to avoid leaving footprints on the soft earth near the house, but thought the marsh safer for disposal. Calculated risk. Sami ran a hand through his hair. Then, who is it? Who killed Mother? Poirot folded his hands calmly. Patience, mon ami. Each detail is a step toward clarity. He turned to Alia. Mademoiselle, may I walk with you to the marsh tomorrow? We must recover this package. Alia hesitated, glancing nervously at the rain-soaked night. I think it is too dangerous. Poirot smiled reassuringly. Do not fear, mademoiselle. I, Hercule Poirot, shall be your shield. The following morning, the fog lay thick over the marsh, turning the landscape into a ghostly monochrome. Poirot, accompanied by Hargreaves, Sami, and Alia, approached the area where the figure had been seen. Boots sank slightly into the wet ground, and reeds bent under the weight of the morning dew. Poirot crouched, inspecting the mud. Observe, he said. Several tracks converge here, but one is unusual, a light step, different from the heavier boots. Someone walked deliberately, placing weight cautiously. The mark is fresh. Sami knelt beside him. Do you think it belongs to the killer? Poirot nodded. OUI. And it is not your brother's gate. Nor any of the servants. Alia pointed to a darker patch of water. The pond, over there. That is where I saw the package dropped. Poirot adjusted his gloves and waded carefully toward the edge. He spotted a small, cylindrical shape, partially submerged. Using a hooked branch, he drew it out. Wrapped in cloth, it was remarkably intact. He unwrapped it slowly. Inside lay a small glass vial, residue visible at the bottom, a pale powder that carried a faintly bitter almond scent. Poirot inhaled slightly and nodded. Cyanide, he murmured. Hargreaves' face paled. So she was right, it was poison. Poirot smiled faintly. Yes. But observe the method, my friends. The poison was not administered in a hasty rage. It was deliberate, calculated, careful. Whoever did this did not wish to be seen. But there is more. This is not the full story. Sami shivered. Then there is someone else, still at large. Poirot nodded. Someone clever, and perhaps cruel. And yet, someone who made a mistake. That vial, too carelessly discarded. Not clever enough to hide the evidence entirely. He looked toward the manor. And now we must return. The house itself may provide the next clue. Someone knows they are being watched. As they walked back, the mist thickened, curling around the reeds and hiding the path ahead. Poirot's eye swept over the landscape, noting footprints, marks, and subtle indications of a person's passage. "There," he said softly, pointing. "See those faint impressions? Someone returned to the house last night." They moved around quietly, avoiding the main path, then entered the servants' entrance. "Clever." Hargreaves frowned. "And no one noticed." Poirot shook his head. "The fog is a loyal ally to those who wish to remain hidden. But not loyal enough to fool the little grey cells of Hercule Poirot." Back at the manor, Poirot dismissed Sami and Alia, insisting they remain indoors while he and Hargreaves examined the kitchen and servant quarters. Every surface, every tray, every pot was scrutinized. "Observe," Poirot said, lifting a teacup from a tray. "The residue inside, recently washed. And yet the pattern shows a careful stir. Someone prepared tea deliberately. Someone who knew the habits of Madame Raza." Hargreaves frowned. "So it was prepared by someone inside the house." Poirot nodded. "Mais oui. Only someone familiar with her routines would know when to administer the poison, and how to do so without attracting suspicion." Poirot paused, leaning closer to the inspector. "And now, my friend, we see the truth begins to reveal itself. A family divided, hatred simmering, a secret that drove one to desperation, and a visitor who misjudged the cleverness of those who watch and wait." He straightened, hands clasped behind his back. "Tomorrow, we shall uncover more. And perhaps, mon ami, the murderer will make a mistake too great to conceal." The storm outside abated slightly, leaving the manor shrouded in mist. Shadows clung to every corner, and the echoes of Madame Raza's final days seemed to whisper through the halls. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The mystery had reached a dangerous, pivotal moment. And he, as always, was prepared. Chapter 7, Whispers in the Manor. The manor was unnervingly quiet the following morning. The storm had passed, leaving a thick, clinging fog that blurred the edges of the grounds and made the willows sway like ghostly sentinels. Hercule Poirot walked through the halls with deliberate calm, hands clasped behind his back, eyes sweeping each corner, each doorway. Silence, he knew, was never truly empty. It concealed voices, motives, and secrets waiting to reveal themselves. Sami met him in the corridor, anxiety etched deeply into his face. "Monsieur Poirot, I cannot remain calm. Each day brings a new revelation. First mother, then the letter, now this poison. How can anyone feel safe?" Poirot smiled faintly, as though amused by Sami's understandable fear. "Monsieur Sami, peace is the luxury of the ignorant. In a house such as this, one must instead embrace vigilance and observation." Sami shivered. "And yet I feel watched." Poirot nodded. "You are correct. Someone is watching, perhaps even among us. But we must proceed with logic, not panic. Panic is the enemy of clarity." The dinner confrontation. That evening, Poirot insisted on a family dinner in the dining room, the large oak table set with precision, the silverware gleaming despite the storm's residue outside. Lily sat quietly beside Sami, while he lingered at the far end of the table, his expression dark and tense. "Tonight," Poirot said calmly, "we speak openly. Secrets cannot remain hidden forever, especially when danger walks among us." He glared, but did not speak. Poirot continued, addressing the entire family, including the reluctant staff. Madame Raza's death was not an accident. Poison was administered. Someone knew her habits, her routines. Someone within this house, or familiar with it, was present that night. Silence followed. Forks clinked softly against plates, but no one spoke. Poirot's gaze shifted to P. You, monsieur, have concealed your movements. P snapped, slamming his hand on the table. I have explained nothing to no one. And I will not be treated as a criminal. Poirot's eyes remained calm, piercing. You do not speak, and yet your body speaks for you. Your anger, your gestures, your avoidance, all betray a consciousness of suspicion. But beware, consciousness does not equal guilt. It merely reveals that someone is hiding something, truth, or fear, or both. Lily's hands trembled as she clutched her napkin. Poirot turned to her gently. And you, mademoiselle? What have you observed? Lily swallowed, her voice low. I do not know who to trust. There are whispers, shadows that move in the corridors. I have seen things, glimpses of someone near my window last night. Poirot's eyes lit with understanding. Exactly so. Someone sought to intimidate you. A calculated move to ensure fear and distraction. He rose and walked slowly around the table. And yet, clever as they may be, they have made mistakes. Footprints, a discarded vial, overlooked details. This is why one must always observe closely. The smallest clue can reveal the grandest deception. A shocking discovery. After dinner, Poirot requested to examine the manor once more. Hargreaves accompanied him, while P and Sami stayed behind. As Poirot walked through the halls, he stopped abruptly in front of the library. A door that normally remained closed was ajar. Pushing it open, he entered the dim room. Inside, the shelves were filled with leather-bound books, their spines dusty. Yet something caught Poirot's sharp eye, papers scattered on the floor near the corner desk. He knelt, picking up a sheet. It was a second letter, written hastily. If you read this, it means I have failed to protect the family. Forgive me. But the truth must remain hidden, unless the consequences are unavoidable. Poirot's brow knit. He turned the page carefully. P does not know all that he believes he does. The danger lies not in his hatred, but in his fear. And fear is as deadly as any poison. Poirot folded the letters and placed them in his pocket. Curious indeed, he murmured. Hargreaves frowned. What does it mean, Poirot? Ah, my friend, Poirot said, rising, it confirms several suspicions. The mother knew her son's anger could be manipulated. She feared his reaction. And someone clever, perhaps cruel, has used that fear to their advantage. The night walk. Later that evening, Poirot insisted on walking the perimeter of the manor alone. The fog had returned, heavy and clinging. The willows swayed, and the marsh reflected pale shadows, turning the landscape into a labyrinth of shapes and half-seen movements. Poirot paused near the garden, studying footprints left in the soft mud. One set of prints diverged sharply, leading toward the servants' quarters. Poirot knelt to examine them. Size 10, he murmured. A man. Weight indicates forceful gait. And look, the prints suggest hesitation. Someone looking around, fearful of being observed. He followed the trail to the side entrance. A faint glimmer of silver caught his eye. A teaspoon, polished, abandoned carelessly. Ah, Poirot whispered, the hand that polished the first spoon has returned to reveal a clue. Clever, but not clever enough. He pocketed the spoon, continuing along the path. Shadows moved in the fog, he could feel the presence of someone watching. And then, a rustle from the reeds nearby. Poirot stopped, raising a finger. The sound ceased. The fog thickened, and silence returned. Yet Poirot's sharp eyes detected movement near the marsh's edge, footprints disappearing into the water. A pattern was emerging. The visitor, the package, the fear, they all pointed to someone orchestrating events carefully, but leaving subtle errors behind. A confrontation with BHI. Returning to the manor, Poirot found P sitting alone in the drawing room, staring blankly at the fireplace. "Monsieur P," Poirot said softly, "you have hidden something from us. Something that does not justify murder, yet is crucial. Perhaps it is your anger, or perhaps it is your knowledge of a family secret." P's shoulders stiffened. I told you, I know nothing that matters." Poirot approached, calm yet insistent. "And yet, your behavior suggests otherwise. Fear, avoidance, sudden flares of anger, these are not the marks of innocence. But they are also not the marks of guilt. They are the marks of one who knows, and is afraid of what knowledge may bring." P's eyes darted nervously. I cannot say. I do not want to destroy the family further." Poirot nodded, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Monsieur, the family is already fragmented. Secrets will not protect it, they will only cause more harm. But do not fear, for the truth will be revealed. And when it is, clarity shall prevail." P swallowed, trembling. I fear the truth may hurt everyone. Especially Lily." Poirot's eyes softened. "Truth has its own weight, yes. But deceit carries an even heavier burden. And now, my friend, the time for concealment is ending." The foreshadowing. That night, as the manor settled into uneasy quiet, Poirot returned to his room, letters, spoons, and clues gathered carefully on the desk before him. The wind moaned outside. Footsteps seemed to echo faintly in the corridors. Shadows of the willows stretched across the walls like warning fingers. Poirot sat, hands clasped, mind racing with the threads of the case. The mother's secret letters, hinting at deception. The poison teacup, carefully administered but leaving a trace. The visitor in the fog, a figure dropping a package into the pond. P's anger, fear, and secrecy. Lily, vulnerable and watched, yet unaware of the full danger. The puzzle was nearly complete. Only one step remained, one final revelation, one overlooked detail that would unravel the mystery entirely. Poirot leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. Tomorrow, the shadows will speak. And the truth, oh, mon Dieu, the truth will shine. The night deepened. Outside, the wind continued to whistle. Inside, the little grey cells of Hercule Poirot were working faster than ever, piecing together the web of deceit, hatred, and fear that held Willowmarsh Manor in its icy grip. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that the end of this mystery was near. Chapter 8: The Unmasking of Shadows. The morning air at Willowmarsh Manor was unusually still, as though the house itself were holding its breath. The storm had passed completely, leaving a pale, sunlit mist hanging over the marshes. Hercule Poirot moved through the halls with deliberate calm, his hands clasped behind him, eyes scanning every detail with the meticulous care that had made him legendary. He gathered the household in the drawing room, Lily and Sami, pale but resolute, P, tense and defensive, the servants, anxious and whispering amongst themselves, and Inspector Hargreaves, poised with his notebook ready. Poirot cleared his throat, drawing all attention to him. "Miss Amos, today we shall untangle the web that has held this house in fear. Each of you has played a role, some by action, some by omission, but the truth must be revealed." The room grew silent. Even the rain-dampened willows outside seemed to lean closer, as though listening. Poirot sets the scene. Poirot began by recounting the events leading up to Madame Raza's death, carefully highlighting only the known facts. He spoke of the mysterious collapse, the tea, the polished spoon, the poisoned vial discovered in the marsh, and the letters hidden by the late matriarch. "Now," he said, pacing slowly, "let us consider motive. Who benefits from Madame Raza's death? Who had reason, opportunity, and the knowledge necessary to act with precision? P's jaw tightened, and he shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Poirot did not look at him yet. Instead, he addressed the room generally. The answer is not merely in hatred. Anger, resentment, and jealousy are dangerous, yes. But the careful murderer does not act from passion alone. No, they act with calculation, precision, and the intent to manipulate perception. He stopped, letting the word settle. Let us examine the clues: the teaspoon, polished meticulously to hide traces; the poison, cyanide, delivered slowly, almost subtly; the package dropped into the pond, almost recovered but left with a trace; and finally, the letters, revealing that the mother had hidden a truth from her son, P. P's eyes widened slightly. I don't understand what you mean. Poirot turned to him gently. Monsieur P., your mother concealed from you the circumstances of your birth. A truth that she feared you would discover. You learned enough to feel betrayed, to be angry, but not enough to act rashly, yet someone else has used that partial knowledge to manipulate events. He shook his head. Who would do that? The reveal. Poirot's grey eyes swept the room, finally settling on the staff. The guilty party is among us. Not the son, not the daughter, not the visitor from the marsh. But someone who knows the routines of the household intimately, someone who could enter rooms unnoticed, someone who could prepare tea, clean spoons, and move silently through corridors at night. Noreen? The maid gasped, clutching her apron. Monsieur? Poirot raised a calming hand. Non, madam, do not panic. I am merely presenting the logic. He turned to Hargreaves. Inspector, notice the polished spoon. Only someone accustomed to careful cleaning could make it look spotless. And the footprints near the marsh? Small, delicate steps, likely a woman, someone light of foot, accustomed to moving quietly. Poirot walked to the center of the room. Noreen, your devotion to this house is known. But your devotion has limits. The letters, the fear of exposure, and the resentment you nurtured over years of seeing Madame Raza favor Lily above you, these combined into action. Noreen's face paled. You cannot mean. Poirot held up a hand. I mean precisely what the evidence shows. You administered the poison to frighten the household, to punish the perceived wrongs of the past. You used the tea, knowing it would be attributed to chance or mistake. And when the mother's secret threatened to emerge, you disposed of the evidence, the package in the marsh, to delay discovery. But you made errors, small errors, yes, but errors I could not overlook. He walked to the window, pointing toward the marsh. See? Footprints, small and hesitant. The poison vial, abandoned carelessly. The polished spoon, the telltale sign of someone used to maintaining appearances. Each is a thread in the tapestry of guilt. Noreen's hands trembled. I did it because I loved this family. I only wanted to protect them. But the road to harm is often paved with love misjudged, Poirot said softly. You allowed your anger and jealousy to masquerade as protection. And so, Madame Raza died. The mother's secret. Poirot turned to P and Lily. Now, the matter of the mother's secret. She confessed that P's actions were not entirely his own fault. He had been misled, shielded from the truth of certain family decisions. The mother feared his reaction, and Noreen, acting in fear and loyalty to the house, attempted to control the consequences. A cascade of fear, anger, and misinterpretation led to tragedy. P's voice shook. So? I didn't. Poirot shook his head. No, Monsieur P. You did not kill your mother. Your anger was real, your resentment true, but you are innocent of this crime. Lily stepped closer to her brother, relief evident on her face. Oh, thank God. Poirot folded his hands. Yet, the danger was real. Someone, Noreen, misjudged circumstances. Her fear, combined with resentment, led her to commit an act she could not control. And now, she must answer for it. Resolving the danger. Inspector Hargreaves moved forward. Noreen, you are under arrest for the administration of poison resulting in death. Noreen sank into a chair, defeated, her face pale as the room seemed to close around her. I only wanted to protect the family. I never meant. Poirot's voice was gentle, almost compassionate. Intent is not innocence, madam. Your actions have consequences, but the truth is clear, and the family is now free from misunderstanding. He turned to the others. And the visitor in the marsh, Olivia? She played no part in the crime, only observed. Her courage allowed us to recover evidence, and for that, she should be thanked. A family healed. Later that afternoon, as the sun pierced through the fog, Poirot walked with Lily and Sami in the garden. The willows swayed gently, the marsh reflecting pale light like liquid silver. Monsieur Poirot, Lily said softly, how did you see it all so clearly? Poirot smiled faintly, hands clasped. Ah, mademoiselle, one must observe, consider motives, study the tiniest clues. Hatred leaves marks, fear leaves footprints, and love, misguided though it may be, leaves traces of action. The little grey cells, they notice all. Sami nodded. I feel safer now, though the events, they frighten me still. Poirot patted his shoulder gently. Fear, mon ami, is normal. But clarity brings peace. The truth, no matter how painful, allows the heart to rest. P approached cautiously, eyes downcast. I am sorry for all I caused. Lily took his hand. We understand. Mother's secret, the fear, the anger, it's over now. Poirot watched them, a small smile tugging at his lips. And so, Willowmarsh Manor can finally breathe again. Shadows lifted, truths revealed, justice served. As he gazed toward the misty marsh, Poirot's mind already moved to the next case, the next mystery. But here, in this quiet country manor, the web of deceit had been untangled, and for once, all was in its proper place. Justice, he murmured to himself, is always worth a patience. And with that, Hercule Poirot allowed a rare, faint smile to cross his face.